So we'll have about 20 minutes for each speakers, and then we'll have a Q&A session afterwards. So, Vice Basri, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Distinguished guests. We have senior diplomats here, a lot of friends, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. I cannot present in detail about infrastructure, but allow me to remind us all the uniqueness of ASEAN first. Founded in 1967, in the quagmire of Vietnam War, it threatened to spread to other Southeast Asian countries. At the same time, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines have also just ended their confrontation. So, frankly speaking, ASEAN is political animal actually, but we don't want to make mistake again. So we package ASEAN as more economic than politics or security by declaring ASEAN to accelerate economic growth, social progress, and so on and so forth. So keep in mind, it's still relevant for us to discuss ASEAN in this conference. So then we jump to ASEAN community with three pillars. You see, always like this, ASEAN political security community, because the most important things for ASEAN is security. ASEAN economic community, and socio-cultural community. But we don't follow, ASEAN don't follow the EU pattern. We don't want to integrate ASEAN. We just cooperate. Not even single authority given by individual party to super body. No. ASEAN Secretariat is only coordinating everything, not given authority by individual country, member country. No measurable instrument for realizing integration, no single market, single currency, no parliament, ASEAN parliament, and so on. ASEAN Free Trade Area already implemented since 2002. What we call it in ASEAN is sharing prosperity, not integrate all 10 ASEAN countries. What we mean with integrations is not like EU, but through connectivity. That's relevant for us to start the role of infrastructure to connect each other more closely. So connectivity includes physical, institutional, and people-to-people connectivity. So we just limit our discussion only to first connectivity, physical, transport, infrastructure, information communication, also infrastructure, and energy. So we just focus on the first pillars. So what is the position of Indonesia? Indonesia is the worst in terms of connectivity because we are maritime countries with 17,000 islands, but we focus until now on land transportation. We are very weak in sea transportation. That's why our logistic cost is very high and the highest in the region, 24% of GDP. We call it habis di ongkos, including coming here, cost habis waktu and so on and so forth. Compared to others, we are very weak. And unfortunately, Tol Laut doesn't affect at all, just only jargon. So in Jokowi era, you see sea transportation, here the black one, tend to decrease from 0.34% to GDP, 0 point, not even 1%, 0.34% to 0.30%. So transportation increased very sharply. So transportation is more important than sea transportation. But you know, air transportation is very expensive. You cannot use air transportation to bring almost all goods. It will be very expensive. And sea transportation doesn't affect much except the first year of Jokowi, first year of first Jokowi presidency period. See, and then after that, stable and 2.8% to GDP. Here is 2.8% to GDP, if I'm not mistaken. So this is us. If we would like to cooperate with ASEAN to promote infrastructure development, we have to start from our characteristics. So don't follow China, don't follow other countries' plan. We have to start from our needs. So that's missing from Indonesian point of view. Almost missing. We don't have visions. We just follow, invited by China. Okay, I agree. Let's develop kereta api, high-speed train, and so on. But no, to integrate Indonesia as national economy. That's our message, I think. And I think Habibie Center also concerned about this. I will be very fast. This ASEAN is very unique, very stable with high growth compared to others. The most stable economy in the world. And GDP of ASEAN last year reached almost 3 trillion US dollar. 3 trillion is not small. Fifth largest economy if we combine ASEAN together. EU always also combine themselves, So we have to see ASEAN as a whole. Number 5 in the world. Indonesia is the biggest one. Thailand is only half of Indonesia. You see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of 10 ASEAN members are top 100 in the world. So we are very strong. ASEAN is very strong, very promising, very lucrative, very potential for all. That's why, as we read from term of reference from Habibie Center, many initiatives coming to ASEAN, Australia, US, China, including ASEAN itself, supported by IDB, creating ASEAN Infrastructure Fund. And more and more intra-investment in ASEAN from 2% intra FDI in ASEAN has been increasing very sharply from 2% to close to 20%, almost 20%. And this is according to ASEAN, divided into 3 phases. And the third phase that we would like to achieve is represent the upcoming phase in Asia's growth journey, with the region projected to add another 1.5 trillion in 2022. So now is 3, 2022, almost there. It's there, 2022. But this is maybe based on PPP, GDP, purchasing power parity, meaning that ASEAN is very, very important. And IMF put ASEAN, not on all ASEAN, but ASEAN 6 in their application. But we are very different each other. Yeah. There are Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar, and Indonesia, Philippines, and then Malaysia, and then Singapore and Bangladesh. But we have all in ASEAN. We have labor abundant country with very low wage. We have rich in natural resources like Indonesia, and we have technology, higher technology achievement by Singapore and Malaysia. So we have everything. We have a complete, almost complete factor of production. So you just choose which one you want to invest in ASEAN. Per capita is very contrast. We have advanced and high income country like Singapore and Brunei, but we have also Brunei with only 1,000 GDP per capita, and no effort from ASEAN to speed up the process of development in second tier ASEAN. Like in EU, they have a structural adjustment fund to speed up in order to smooth the cooperation among them. It's very difficult to cooperate, to integrate actually, economies with this characteristic. And also, of course, much more difficult because different kind of, economic system, political system. So it is not realistic to integrate ASEAN. And we are more attractive one, or the most attractive one. All region would like to engage with ASEAN. From all over the world, not like Karek, there is Karek, RICP, East Asia, Mongolia, Pakistan. Most of world community doesn't want to cooperate with this, with very limited in what they call it, interaction yet. And for US, because lately Habibie Center asked me to focus on US. For US, Asia getting more important, and as you can see, the relations between US and Asia Pacific increased very sharply compared to US to Europe. So, but little bit changed under Donald Trump. Donald Trump asked all leader of ASEAN visiting US instead of Trump coming to traditional informal meeting between ASEAN and main partners. So I think this is temporary. The fact is business is here. Europe is declining. So Trans-Pacific is more important than Transatlantic. But the tricky things about ASEAN is this. You know, ASEAN never rely on intra-trade. Our intra-trade decline instead of increasing very sharply, and only 1/4 of our total foreign trade consists of 10 compared to, let's say, NAFTA, only 3 countries, but their intra-trade is half of the total international trade. And for EU, almost 2/3. For them, rest of the world is not important, only 1/3. Showing how tight their integration. But ASEAN is different. ASEAN is unique. The path of development of ASEAN is unique. By integrating our market only, integrating our market, multinationals view ASEAN as one market, so it is not necessary anymore for transnational to build factory in every ASEAN country. Toyota in the past, has had factory in almost all ASEAN countries. No need anymore. Yeah? Division of labor among ASEAN and competition among ASEAN to attract investors. And as a total, more and more foreign investment coming to ASEAN from very, very low. Last year reached almost 150 billion US dollars. Very big, very big. And this is average 5 years. All countries without exception increase very sharply. So, as a community, we share the prosperity, as I said before. No one lag behind in terms of recipients of foreign direct investment. In total, you see, ASEAN from 80 billion early 90s to 28, and now 136 billion. There is difference data between ASEAN database on foreign direct investment and UN database from World Investment Report. I use World Investment Report here because more common, cover all countries. See here, intra-ASEAN FDI from 2.8% to 16.6%. So we are more important, much more important, and especially for Indonesia, intra-ASEAN investment reach more than half of the total foreign direct investment. But mostly coming from Singapore, and maybe majority of money is Indonesian money, using Singapore as a center of their business. For example, Wilmar expand their activity in Indonesia, and one of the owner of Wilmar is Martua Sitolus. And just for your knowledge, Martuasisaurus pay taxes less than money he received from the government. We pay 700 billion, but the government gives subsidy 1.2 trillion. Hebat pemerintah. Maybe part of them went to election. This is top 10 investor in 2017. As you can see here, intra-ASEAN is number 1. And last year, also number 1 in terms of value. It's very, very interesting, you know. And 2017, US number 2, as individual country, number 1, of course, US, but dropped to, where is US here? To number 1, 2, 3, number 4 in 2018. Share dropped from 70% to only 5%, replaced by Japan and China. China is not the highest one, but the growth of investment from China is the highest. I think that's undervalued because some of the investment coming through Singapore, so on behalf of Singapore in terms of statistics, procedures. And here ASEAN, window of opportunity, most population in ASEAN are young. Working age population is very high, and the highest is from Indonesia. Almost half of working population from Indonesia. So this is the incentives for investor coming to ASEAN, especially to Indonesia, because we don't have shortage of labor. Yeah, the issue is the quality, of course. And this is the uniqueness of ASEAN. We trade each other very small, yeah, only a quarter to GDP, but we trade with third country at most. Degree of openness of almost all ASEAN countries are very high. Let's say, for example, Singapore. Percentage of export to GDP almost 200%. Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines. The lowest is Indonesia. Yeah, because we are very big in terms of population. We have big market. And, the sad thing is the openness is decreasing very sharply from 41% to 21%. So we are becoming inward looking, unable to export more what we produce abroad. Both export and imports. That's the characteristics of Indonesia compared to others. Vietnam increased very sharply from 54 to 95%. So if we would like to develop our capacity, I think the most important thing is we integrate each other, and okay, if we integrate ourselves, and then the second phase is integrate with ASEAN in order to increase our integration coefficient in ASEAN. It will create capacity for ASEAN to absorb, much better volatility in the world economy. So I think we have to move forward, but let's improve ourselves first. Don't be dictated by others. And consistently decreasing the economies. So it's against ASEAN, the spirit of ASEAN. Okay, I skip this, showing that why Indonesia is not able to play more important role in trade, because what we export mostly commodity. We cannot export palm oil to Malaysia, right? But we can export kijang to Malaysia. So the share of manufactured export in Indonesia is very small. That's why we cannot get what we call it additional gains from trade, from intra-industry trade. Because intra-industry trade will not happen if most of our export are commodity. Intra-industry trade coming from manufacturing goods. Also happen to imports. And our share of export, high tech to exports declining. So I think, okay, what our choice to speed up the process of infrastructure development should be based on our existing picture now. That's why FDI to Indonesia is relatively small compared to other countries. FDI as percentage of gross fixed capital formation is very small. You know, Indonesia is the developmental here. You see Vietnam, communist country, tend to be closer, but you know they are very open to foreign direct investment. We are the worst in class. Indonesia is the red one, almost lag behind compared to others, including FDI in infrastructure. That's why Pak Jokowi rely more on issuing government bonds or pushing state-owned enterprise to issue bonds. And in terms of attractiveness from Japanese point of view, Indonesia is still okay, but lower than Thailand, Vietnam, and India and China. No one FDI relocation from China to Indonesia because of infrastructure. What kind of infrastructure needed? That's the starting point. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Faisal, for giving us a very comprehensive picture of the economic situation facing ASEAN and how it engages with the major economies. And I particularly like the message of how Indonesia should first address its domestic situation before it tries to integrate with the outside world. Next, we have Dr. Fauzizan, and also have 20 or so minutes.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank the Habibie Center, especially the Asean Studies Program, Ibrahim, and the team for having me here to get involved in this discussion on fascinating topics on infrastructure, regional competitions on infrastructure investment in Asia. I originally put the political economy on my slides, but then I realized my political knowledge is not enough. I think so. Let me over perspective on infrastructure investment in Asian member states. My outline is simple. First, that we look at infrastructure demand in Southeast Asia within the context of Asian Economic Community, and by having this enabling environment, we consider influential factors in determining foreign infrastructure investment in the region. Allow me to quote the recent publication from ADB about the demand for meeting the infrastructure's demand in Southeast Asia. And this, you see the numbers, but it's not absolute numbers. It means that they try to use proxy to forecast the needs if we do the business as usual, or if we consider the climate adjusted environment. So what I would like to show here is that it's huge. It's like about 5 to 5.5% of GDP of each countries in regions, and we could not fulfill it. And also, it's a comparison with the world demand for infrastructures. I show you this comparisons of infrastructure demand from forecasting from ADB that we just see, and OECD and McKinsey in the world coverage, and we could see that by these numbers that ASEAN could have about 1/4 to 1/3 of the world demand for infrastructures. And all ASEAN member states are committed to sustainable development goals. And we could see that infrastructures have direct involvement with at least 3 goals of SDGs: clean water and sanitation, SDG number 7, affordable and clean energy, and SDGs number 9, industry, innovation and infrastructure. And also indirect impact of infrastructure on 7 and on 8 of SDGs, on poverty alleviation, on zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, decent work, economic growth, reduced inequality, and sustainable cities and communities. Now, allow me to remind us about the important milestones on Asian Economic Community Agreement related to infrastructures. First, it's 4 pillars in Asian Economic Community 2007 provide us with the guidelines on what are objectives of AEC. Single market and production based, highly competitive economic regions, equitable economic development, and integrated into the global economy. And then the Asian under ACCC, Asian Connectivity Coordinating Committee, issued the MPAC 2015 and MPAC 2025, which involved many stakeholders and scholars, including area. MPAC is Master Plan of Asian Connectivity. It also contains the list of the important projects in the regions. And then the last one is ASEAN Vision 2040 that emphasizes on people-centered community and inclusiveness. Now, the current hot issues now in Indo-Pacific. In June 2019, the ASEAN Ministerial Meeting and Post-Ministerial Conference have this joint communique about the Indo-Pacific outlook that serve as a guide for ASEAN engagement in wider Asia-Pacific and Indian Ocean regions. And also, it welcomes external partners to work with ASEAN in promoting the principles laid out in the Asian Outlook and on the Indo-Pacific and to undertake cooperation with ASEAN. The Outlook lays key elements, principles, objectives, and mechanism of Indo-Pacific, and also it identifies the 4 areas of cooperation, which are in maritime, connectivity, SDGs, and also economic and the possible areas of cooperation. So these now will become hot issues and very related with the movement of both US, Japan, Australia, and India. Why ASEAN centrality is important? Because Indo-Pacific, first I need to briefly say that Indo-Pacific physical regions actually is not in the consensus. So no consensus on the boundaries of this what's so-called Indo-Pacific. Yeah. So perhaps everyone has their own perspective on what's called Indo-Pacific, but it's there. So Indo-Pacific is central to East Asian Summit. East Asian Summit consists of 18 countries. So 10 ASEAN countries, US, Japan, Australia, China, Korea, India, New Zealand, and Russia. All powerful economies in Indo-Pacific are members of ES. So it's very relevant with their movement and their decisions in this region. And so far, US infrastructure engagement has been recognized by this Trump administration, and with the Build Act of 2018, that double development finance capacity to 60 billion USD, and Australia also puts more serious efforts in investment infrastructure in region. And on the other hand, China has initiated the AIIB in 2016 and BRI 2013. It evolved from the OBOR, or One Belt One Road, and China is very serious in building infrastructure in region. Currently, for the railway high-speed train, China has led about 20,000 kilometers, and it's longest than the whole world's high-speed railways combined. So, and the current, I think, the longest railway in the world is between Yiwu in China to Madrid. Yeah, it's 6,000 something miles. Yeah, and takes 21 days to travel from Yiwu to Madrid. So yeah, and Pakistan is China allies now in infrastructure and connectivity. It says that China will play as a game changer and a fate changer in the South Asia, including especially in Pakistan. So this is one of the examples of how China looked at that newfound overland route that is faster and more efficient. If one take this sea route from Beijing to Europe to through Suez Canal, it takes up to 45 days, but with the land bridge and railway, it takes only 10 days. So, and now in China, from Beijing to any places in China, it takes no longer than 8 hours. So there we could see that China is very serious in infrastructure sectors, and it has big endowment from the state-backed funding as well. So now let me go to the influential factors. This is the whole story actually. First, ASEAN needs huge infrastructure investment. including the systems, not only the physicals but also the system. That the demand cannot be fulfilled by ASEAN itself. So we need external support, especially it's the external financing. It's inevitably. So second, ASEAN consists of 10 countries. Pak Faisal already mentioned uh, very clearly that we have various differences in capacity, needs, political views, geographical situations, and we can expect that there are various views towards investment and interventions from outside region. We cannot expect the same views will come from Indonesia and Vietnam towards China investment, or from Singapore and Cambodia towards US or Japan investment. So it's create the complexities internally between the ASEAN member states. And moreover, ASEAN is a non-binding regional cooperation, so there's no, it's not like EU, like already mentioned by Faisal. And quad, it's from quadrilateral, US, Japan, Australia, India, also have different purpose and level of alliance among themselves. And I look at this policy paper from the Sasakawa Institute and said that the report states never emphasize and never says that it's a strategy to counter China. So America says that China is a visionist power. Japan emphasize on the needs to put international standards in infrastructure development. Australia, importance of the Indo-Pacific democracies, and India's promote a rule-based in regional order. And we know that India has some swing mood, in regional cooperation. Sometimes very eager, sometimes just drawn from the agreement. So we cannot really see whether they will move towards the fierce competition between these Quads and China actually. And it also depends on how ASEAN member states view the importance of quality infrastructures, because the terms of quality infrastructures not only like the high quality with the best technology, innovation, etc., but it also includes the financial side, the sustainability, etc. So it's related with the commitment to achieve SDGs. Because sustainability issues are fundamental. And it also depends on the level of physical infrastructure needed or appropriate for each country. Is it the high quality, moderate, or basic quality? If you don't have a rural road to connect your remote area, you don't need the very high toll road to this 5 villages. Perhaps second-class road is enough. But if one more thing that I forgot to put is urbanization rate that's very high now in the region, and it demands more for infrastructures and urban amenities. Currently, almost 50% of the population in the regions living in urban areas, and projected will be increasing to 60% in the next 10 years. And financing infrastructure has own characteristics and principles. So the government may fool you to choose principal financing projects for 1, 2, or 3 projects, and it's it, but cannot do it all the time. So before somebody talk about what about the Sri Lanka's case that is now under the debt threat to China, let me say that Sri Lanka is not the case. The Sri Lanka is, I think, the most misperceived case in these terms. Sri Lanka debt to China is only 10% of its total debt. The case of the Hambantota port that they cannot repay the investment from China is just one failure case. But actually, the Sri Lanka case is more than that. It's mismanaged for a long time. Sri Lanka issued sovereign bond, foreign sovereign bond, to finance everything they need, not only infrastructures, because they have declining revenue, taxations, and growth is very low. So they have problems, not because of China debt loan. China loan is only 10% of total Sri Lanka loan. So while I think in terms of ASEAN, I'm not worried, except perhaps some cases in Laos and Cambodia. But for Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, okay. And also how ASEAN members prepare to enter Industry 4, because this is now currently also hot issues here. How we should react to the waves of the Industrial Revolution 4. We don't want it, but it knocks your door and you cannot say no. And also, it also depends on political economy of aid. For example, the fierce competition between China and Japan in high-speed train between Jakarta and Bandung. It's more on this because Indonesia put the projects not in our priorities agenda, so our government said APBN will not be allowed to finance the project. Goes with your business scheme, and Japan cannot do that. Because Japan still require government-backed guarantee. So if something happens, government should guarantee the financial failure. But China more risk takers. Yeah. They offer with no government guarantee. So that's why China won the case. And it also happens in other cases in Asian, like Dawei in port in Myanmar, and also high-speed train from China, Vietnam, Laos, Bangkok, and Myanmar. And now about ASEAN and Indonesia. ASEAN position in regional infrastructure development. Where are they? Where are us? Yeah. The key is what Asia wants actually, not what or China wants. If ASEAN knows what they want, then we are not worried about who wants to invest in our regions. And also another geographical aspect here, which is I think important now and in the future, that Indonesia's proximity to Pacific Islands, because Pacific Island is geostrategically competed by China, Japan, and US, and Australia. But Pacific states, small island developing states, are climate prone and economically challenging. I wrote a paper with the UN SCAP on financing sustainable infrastructure in Pacific Islands. So I looked at all the data and I saw it very headache if I should work there. I don't know how to do that actually. But you see that its economic trend can be significantly influenced by the big neighbors, which are Australia so far. And if Indonesia would like to take the role, then Indonesia has the potentials. So Indonesia's position in Indo-Pacific is crucial, both advantageous but also vulnerable. If there is conflict between big economies, China, US, Japan, then it will give undesirable impact on Indonesia, especially when we have a new capital in Kalimantan, quite close to the eastern part. But eastern part of Indonesia is very potential. We just completed our studies on the Tol Laut and evaluation and also potentials of the eastern Indonesia regions, and we see huge potential. And I think eastern part of Indonesia is our future. And related to the Indo-Pacific issues, it will be the one of the strategical pivot in the region. And also Indonesia has its own interest in both domestic and regional development. So how far Indonesia will harmonize this both agenda. And my remarks is so simple. First, competition or not, if ASEAN are committed to their own principles, the region will be benefited because we will have more investors from everywhere, right? And the key values that are very important is to maintain Asian centrality and neutrality, and to choose infrastructure projects appropriately, and to keep macroeconomic stability in the region. And last one, Indonesia should take leading role because we have strategic positions, yeah, in terms of geographics, economics, demographics, and environmental. We know that the coral triangles, which I think 70% of the total biota in the world are there, and 70% of the life in Indonesia. So we have a very very high potentials, and we have all the things that we can do to lead this process. Yeah, Indonesia consists of 40% of the population in Asia, 40% of GDP of Asia. Right. So I think it times that Indonesia not some colleagues, some fellows from Asia sometimes felt that Indonesia is not really take serious attention to its role in ASEAN because of its increasing positions in G20, G7, yeah. And we are now one of the observers in OECD. So, but ASEAN is our neighbor. I think it's time to Indonesia to take stronger roles in the ASEAN. I think I stop here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhatia, for outlining the infrastructure demands in Southeast Asia, as well as highlighting some of the influential factors. And I particularly like the comment about the key is what ASEAN wants, and I know what the major powers want. So it seems quite similar to what Pak said before as well, about adjusting to the situation that ASEAN and the region faces. Last but not least, we have Dr. Firka Rahmat. So the floor is yours.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very honored to be here. I want to thank the Habibie Center for inviting me. Before I start, I just want to say that I have a speech disorder. In the case that you don't understand any of my speech, please do not hesitate to ask. I'm very happy to repeat or to clarify. Today's presentation, I'm going to focus on China. And the main reason is because this is the only thing I know. I've been doing a lot of research on China, especially from PhD. I'm researching on the implementation of China's Belt and Road Initiative, but particularly in the Middle East. But now, since I'm returning back to Indonesia, I'm trying to use the data that I gained from my research in the context of Indonesia. I did a lot of interviews in China with relevant stakeholders, especially the people also from the party, from the party, and a number of people, relevant institutions that have implemented the Belt and Road Initiative. And the second reason why I'm focusing on China is because I think if we look at the map, the mapping out of the competition within major powers in Asia, in ASEAN, China is leading, And in the end of my presentation, I'm going to try to map out the competition between China, Japan, Australia, and the US. Okay, next. All right. So here is my content of the presentation. So I'm going to focus on China's Belt and Road Initiative, and I'm going to answer the question of why China is doing so. The reason why I'm asking this question is because there are so many assumptions that China is doing this because it wants to dominate the world, but actually there are so many internal motives behind it. There are so many internal factors that led China in doing so, and it's not necessarily a hegemonic one. And then I'm going to answer the question of how China is doing so and the problem it faces, and lastly, as I said, I'm going to map out the competition between China and different powers in the infrastructure investment in ASEAN. So the Belt and Road Initiative, next. Alright, the Belt and Road Initiative was initiated after Xi Jinping came to the office in 2012. And it, the BRI aims to rejuvenate or to rebuild the historical Silk Road in the 18th century. And there are, but for the modern, what I call the modern Silk Road, it's constituted of two components: the overland route and the sea route. The overland route is from Xi'an to Rotterdam, and the sea route, as you can see, is through Asean, Sri Lanka, Africa, the Middle East, and all the way to Italy. As you can see from the map, ASEAN plays a very crucial role. ASEAN has a very important position here, and and as well as a region, but ASEAN indeed plays a very important role. And why China is doing this? Can you go to the next slide? All right. So if you look at in the ASEAN, there are around 700 billion US$ of investment under the umbrella of the Belt and Road Initiative. And of all ASEAN member countries, Indonesia has the highest. Indonesia is the highest recipient of BRI investment, and as you, there are only few data, specific data regarding which project is financed under the Belt and Road Initiative. And if we go back to Beijing, and we ask politicians in Beijing, sometimes they cannot even define which project is under the BRI. It's very loose, and sometimes the government in China is claiming, like, this project is under the BRI, this project is under the BRI. Well, when, one example, I did an interview with one of China's companies in the UAE, in Dubai. The Ministry of Finance informed that the project is under the Belt and Road Initiative. I went there, I checked it out, I did interview with the project manager. They said that, no, we're not working under the BRI, we're working under ourselves. It's for our company's mission, not for the government mission. So there are, that's why there are difficult data to find. It is difficult to find the exact data, which project is under the BRI and which project is not under the BRI. And when I did my research, I came up with the conclusion that one of the professors at Oxford is doing a research on the BRI project. He said, and I used the argument for my research, that whatever China's investment, any Chinese investment after 2015, after the BRI was announced, can be considered as the BRI. And I think now, after I finish my PhD, I think it's a weak methodological basis to claim that, any Chinese investment after 2015 is under the BRI. But until now, the government in China still cannot define, which projects under the BRI and which not. So the reason why I'm saying this is that there are so many data out there, and I still don't know like which data is correct and which data is incorrect. So, but here I'm using data from Oxford Economic and CIMB Asean Research Institute. Next. And here is some of the BRI infrastructure project. Again, this is a loose definition. So there is a Jakarta-Bandung high-speed railway, China-Laos railways, and you can read it by yourself. But actually, there are mainly the project focuses on transport infrastructures, and secondly is energy. But there are also other infrastructure like optical fiber and smart TV projects. Next. And this is actually most important project is industrial parks. There are a number of industrial parks that are being built by China. And as per your information, according to the Vision and Action is the only official document by the Chinese government which outlines the Belt and Road Initiative. It states that the main goal of this the main goal of the BLI is to rebuild the Silk Road by 2049. So all the projects have to finish by 2049, which will be the same year as the 100th anniversary of the People's Republic of China, which was established in 1949. Next. Why China is doing so? If you look at a lot of literature, mostly they say like, okay, China is wanting to dominate the world, China is wanting to become the next hegemonic power, replacing the United States, but is it true though? I found that there are two opinions in this regard. One opinion is from outside China and one is from within China. People outside China always say, okay, China wants to dominate the world, China wants to become the next hegemonic power. But when we talk to people from within China, China has a lot of problems domestically. Within China, internal problems. And one of the biggest problems that China faces is over accumulation in infrastructural material like steel, cement, asphalt, and so on and so forth that have to be thrown away in order for the economy to stable. China's economy is going down now, and there are many factors for it, and one of the factors is the overaccumulation. Where did the overaccumulation start? It started in 2008, global financial crisis. What did the government do? The government gave funding to many of the provincial governments in order for them to accelerate their industries. But the result is overaccumulation. Overaccumulation in asphalt, in steel, in cement, they have to be thrown away. And that is why China is building a lot of infrastructure across those countries in the BRI map. And another problem that China faces is overaccumulation in foreign exchanges. China has a lot of US reserve that if it is not resolved, China's economy is going down. And this is the reason why, when we talk about the BRI, we cannot separate it from AIIB, Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which was introduced in 2016. When it was first introduced, the main aim is to fund the BRI, but it's not the main funders. There's the Silk Road Fund, and there are many other funding behind the BRI, but AIIB is the biggest one. And one of the reasons why it came so surprisingly in the news is because people thought, okay, AIIB, China is going to replace the IMF and the World Bank. People before it came to public, people thought like, okay, China is going to spread the yuan, the renminbi, through the AIIB. And when it came up, okay, now China is still using US dollars. China is still using dollars as the main operational currency of the AIIB. Why? The reason is because China a lot of US reserve within China that has to be thrown away abroad. And that is why AIIB is still using dollar as the main the main currency of operation. But this is not to neglect the external motivation that China has. That China wants to spread its influence in the world. And one simple evidence is AIIB again. The president, Xi Jinping, said that we don't use US dollars now for a short term. In the long term plan, we're going to use yuan as the main currency of the AIIB. It shows how there is, for now, there is an internal motivation that the BRI is aimed to resolve different problems that China has internally, but in the long term, there is an external motivation that all these measures, all these infrastructures, all these institutions that China is currently spending time and energy on building, will be used by China to spread its influence. And if you look at simply, China is now spending a lot on building infrastructure in ASEAN. Okay, that's true. China wants to build those over-accumulated infrastructure material, but what happened after they finish, of course, is to ease China's trade across the world. It is to minimize the barrier for investment. China can now travel its goods across the world through roads, railways, ports that China is currently building now. So the argument is that my argument and some other people's argument is that the BRI is for the short term is aimed to help China resolve many of its problems internally, but we cannot deny that in the long term there is an external motivation that China wants to use all of this to spread its influence. Next. How China is doing so? Number one is funding infrastructure. Number two is cultural effort. So number one, funding infrastructure, I think it's clear people know about it, that the BRI is spending money to build infrastructure, but what people less know is that China is also using cultural effort or soft power. And this is what I found in my research, that China knows that people need to accept its projects in order for the project to succeed, and China cannot just come to Indonesia and knock its door and automatically open, right? They need to say something. They need to say hi. My name is China, and so on and so forth, and that's how China is using cultural effort. In Indonesia, China is now building 6 Confucius Institutes. And one of the institutes that is being built is in Surabaya. I went there, check it out, see what's going on, and do some observation. and some of the materials that are being taught is about how China's investment is good, how China's way of doing business is the best. And I think this is one of the ways of China trying to establish legitimacy for its investment. Back in the Middle East, when I did my research in the Middle East, China was the one who built the railway from Kaaba in Makkah, in the city of Makkah, from Kaaba to Mina. And there was a lot of controversies. How, because in Makkah only Muslim can enter Makkah, right? And the debate was that how come China would bring 4,000 its workers, 4,000 of its workers enter Makkah. So what they did was they signed an agreement with one of the television in Saudi Arabia called Al Akbar, and they had this TV show called Chinese Converting to Islam. So every single day they will broadcast a program about how some Chinese workers testifying, in Islam, when we entered Islam, we use the Shahada, testimony of faith, right? So in this show, not every Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, it's about like twice a day, not twice a day, like once every 2 days. So in this show, they show how Chinese workers converting to Islam, like hundreds of them. So I didn't, and now in the Middle East there are a lot of cartoon shows, TV series on Chinese. From China, there is one TV channel called Yusheng, which is from Silk Road. They call it Yusheng, and one of the program is about China dream, and in that show, people are encouraged to have a dream, and the best dream to follow is the Chinese dream. And it is important to know that the Chinese dream is Xi Jinping's slogan, right? When Xi Jinping introduced the BNI, Xi Jinping uses the slogan of China dream and slogan. For your information, slogan plays a very important role in Chinese politics. Every leadership has their own slogan. Like Deng Xiaoping, when he announced the Chinese reform, he used the slogan "Being rich is glorious" to justify his move to capitalism. So there are. In Indonesia, I see this, upload a piece on the Diplomat, you can see on Google, about Chinese cultural effort in Indonesia, but I see this as a beginning, I mean, it just started, not like in the Middle East, but I see a lot in ASEAN, I see more cultural effort being done in parts like Thailand and Vietnam. And I think this is part of China's step forward in legitimizing its investment, especially under the Belt and Road Initiative. And if we look at the document, Vision and Action, the document and the debate for the Belt and Road Initiative, one of the pillars, the 5 pillar investment, financial integration, one of the pillars is people-to-people exchanges, like cultural exchanges, media exchanges. And I think from my own perspective, I might be wrong, and some people in China, when I did interview, confirmed my view that, this is part of China's effort to legitimize its investment. Alright, next. Okay, now talking about the problems that China faces. If you look at the opportunities, why I'm talking about the problems, because the opportunities are clear, There are so many, as Dr. Fauci said, there are so many opportunities that we can gain from Chinese investment, but there are also problems. But I'm not here to exaggerate the problem, and I agree with her, but there are many problems that are being exaggerated, especially when it comes to Sri Lanka. But there is there is a problem up there. There is a potential problem, though it's not as big as it usually told. But there is a problem, you know. But it always, my argument is that China needs, when it comes to Indonesia, China needs Indonesia more than Indonesia needs China. And we have to understand that, and we have to be able to talk to China. Mahathir Mohamad, Malaysia almost got into debt with China. He talked to China, they reduced the number. Right? So China we can negotiate with China. China is not robot, you know. Right? So I think there is a concern about debt, but it can be negotiated. And then environmental problem. Environmental problem, I don't see much problem in Indonesia yet, but there are many reports. There are many reports coming from all over the world about the environmental destruction caused by the Belt and Road Initiative. A lot of extinct, what do we call it, extinct animals gone, deforestation, river pollution, and so on and so forth. There, many of them are caused by the BRI. And then lack of funding. And, you know, in some projects in the world, like in Africa, many of them are being delayed because of lack of funding. It is important to understand that not all projects under the Belt and Road Initiative are funded by China alone. Okay? There are many projects that are cooperatively funded by China and other institutions. One of the examples is the Special Economic Zone in Oman. It's not only being funded by China, but China cooperates with World Bank. And then there is another project in Saudi Arabia. China cooperates with Islamic Development Bank or IDFC. So some projects are not funded by China alone. So, and in this case, there are many pull and push. You know, when China cooperates in funding, they'll pull. This is mine, this is yours. There's so many debates, and as a result of that debate, a lot of projects are being delayed. So, this is not the problems that are, I'm not saying that this is existing in ASEAN, but these are problems that we need to be concerned of because it happens in some part of the world. And then next, before this, there is also a problem of political consent. Political consent, it happens usually in Indonesia, like, you know, people, you know, the issue of Chinese workers. Well, the number is very small. I don't know why people are making it like it's like Chinese, all the Chinese are moving to Indonesia or something. But okay, let's say that we don't want Chinese workers. Okay, let's say we don't want Chinese workers. Again, Chinese can be negotiated. We can negotiate with China. One example is the project in Red Sea in Saudi Arabia. In Saudi Arabia, there is a project called Yasref. Yasref is Yanbu Aramco Refinery. Yeah, Yasref. Refinery oil project. A project on refinery between China and Saudi Arabia. In the beginning, China wants to import its workers. By the way, when I did interview with the Chinese government, there are two reasons why China loves to bring its workers. One is efficiency. Yeah, no need to teach languages, no need to teach how to use Chinese laptops. Chinese technologies, right? Just move and start working, right? Efficiency. Number two, this is not the opinion of the government, but this is the opinion of the analysts, that for China, having its people all over the world is part of soft power. You know, one of the scholars say that if the U.S. power lies in its weapons available everywhere, China is proud when its people are everywhere. Right? It's part of soft power. So China loves to bring its workers. And it's not surprising. Don't be surprised. China brings its workers. It's everywhere. In Saudi Arabia, China wants to bring its workers to this particular project. In Saudi Arabia, there is a project called Saudization. They don't want to rely on foreign workers because they've been relying on Indians for years. There are more Indians than Saudi Arabians in their countries, right? So they don't want Chinese. They don't want Chinese. They talk to China. We don't want your work. Let's divide because we need to give employment to our own workers. Deal. Now, 80% local workers, 20% Saudis. So what does it mean? It means that the issue of workers, first, don't exaggerate because the number is not as big as it is often said. Number two, China can negotiate. If you don't want them, talk to China. Learn Mandarin, learn Chinese, and talk to China, you know. Then talk to China. It can be negotiated. And then, lastly, I want to map out this competition that is happening in China. My background is in international relations, so different from Pak Faisal, who has background in economics. He knows a lot about Indonesia. I look from weather perspective. For me, the competition is, how can I say it? China and US, there is a competition. Look, this is funny. US sees China as a threat, but China doesn't see US as a threat. China now still looks up to the US. China does not want to, China does not want to override the US. China wants to, China wants to maintain its good relationship with Washington. It doesn't want to disturb the relationship. And I see this because, one of the Xi Jinping statements, he said that great two powers. He used a concept called great two powers. It means what? It means China does not want to replace the US. China wants to be equal maybe, but China always be careful in its policy concerning the US. Whenever China make a policy, China always look left, right, back, and front to see what the US is going to respond. If the US responds positively, China is taking a step. Otherwise, China is taking back a step. So I think the competition between China and the US may be small but not big. But the biggest one is China and Japan. I see this now. Especially, I don't see when it comes to investment, but I began to see when it comes to trade. When President Joko Widodo announced that, we're going to have an electric car, right? We're going to have an electric car. Japan had a long automotive relation with this country, right? We have Toyota, we have, we like Japanese car and we had a strong automotive relation with Japan. When Jokowi announced that, we're going to have an electric car, all of a sudden, Jokowi decided that it will be built under cooperation with China. Japan surprised, and the foreign minister of Japan said, this is the beginning of the competition. So I see this. I see that in the future that there might be a strong competition between China and Japan and ASEAN. I wrote a piece on South China Morning Post about how Indonesia can win this competition. You can read it. And then lastly, China and Australia is also beginning to compete, especially after China banning coal, right, from Australia last beginning of this year. So there is a tendency to compete. But now, what is interesting is that in ASEAN, there is a competition between US and Australia. I wrote a piece, it's published this morning on the Diplomat. You can check it out as well. I'm not self-promoting, but I don't want to talk a lot. So you can just read the article. About US and Australia. Mainly on smart cities. They have now US ASEAN Smart City and Australia ASEAN Smart Cities. And I think here is a new stage of competition between Australia and the US. And I see this maybe as a beginning stage for their competition in ASEAN. I think I went over time, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your presentation on China's infrastructure endeavor in ASEAN. So we now have some time for Q&A. So if you have any questions for our three speakers, please raise your hand, and one of our organizers will have a mic round. So we have one question at the front right. So we'll take our first.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Tangguh Hairil from Bina Nusantara University. I have several questions. First one for Pak Faisal Basri. I read that you said that the US-China trade war will have positive impacts on Indonesia, will open some benefits. Meanwhile, the investment project in Indonesia is not increasing our exports, but increasing our imports instead. Okay. So based on that background, what suggestion would you make to President Joko Widodo in this current situation with the ever-increasing investment projects and the specs between Indonesia and the European Union over trade of some commodities, nickel, palm oil, etc. Yeah, so what would you suggest to the current administration? Then my second question is, it's open to any speaker. The recently impeachment of President Donald Trump. What do you think this new situation would impact investment in Indonesia and Southeast Asia? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions from the floor? Yes, to Ambassador.
Thank you very much. I'm Ambassador of Afghanistan. I thank all the presenters for very interesting presentations. So, although I understand that today is the ASEAN Day and it is specifically on the opportunity of investment, but well, investment doesn't recognize borders. So a very interesting point was made about the low level of inter-ASEAN exchange. Yeah. So, but I didn't hear anything about inter-Asian. Yes, there is something about with China, India, they are biggest players, but with the rest of Asia, yeah, particularly, I mean Central Asia. So, does the Central Asia have any place in the economic and trade cooperation exchange with ASEAN? If not today, for tomorrow, if it is, what is that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And any other questions from the floor? Yes, the gentleman is on the left.
Thank you so much, Isaac from the Fiji Embassy. My question is directed to Madam Zan and also to Mr. Ratna. First question is, it's interesting that you have done research and work in terms of the small island developing states. How relevant are your findings in terms of addressing specifically the issues of climate change and then interwoven with the market accessibility, competitiveness, and even some of the risks in terms of engaging specifically with the Pacific Island states? And how does that in the long term affect both Indonesia and the spillover to Asean as a whole? The second question to Mr. Rahmat, thank you so much for the interesting perspectives about the BRI. I'm not really sure if there is a framework that governs the BRI project in terms of the terms or the terms of reference that provides specific governance structure, probably, by those who are now being part of the BRI holistically. I'm aware that more than 100 countries are going to be involved holistically on the project, but is there a framework, a regional framework that governs the project of BRI? Or
You mean like blueprint?
A blueprint or something like that?
Okay.
Or is it just China initiated and therefore the decision-making process and all the other governance structure is really governed or influenced by Beijing? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have, I think, 5 questions on the trade war and how would it benefit Indonesia, and is there any recommendations or suggestions that we would give to the Jokowi administration? A question on the ongoing impeachment process against the US President Trump, and about the issue of intra-Asia trade, especially from Central Asia, and on the question regarding climate change, as well as the framework or terms of reference regarding the BRI. So maybe I'd like to invite Pak Faisal first to address the questions.
The funny thing about Indonesia is, if you listen or read government presentation, the first chapter is global economy affecting Indonesian economy. In fact, the relations between global economy and Indonesian economy is very weak. Why? Because our export is very small. Something happened to the world, it affects very little Indonesia. So dealing with trade war, of course, affect negatively to Indonesia as well as all over the world. But the impact to Indonesia to GDP is only minus 0.17%. Compared, let's say, to Singapore and Malaysia, because these two economies expose so the economic exposure to the world is very high, because they are very open, they are very close, so the impact is very small. Of course, there is also another negative impacts on more movement of goods from China to Indonesia. For example, textile, steel, cement, and so on and so forth. If you look at the latest data, our export January to October to November declined by, I forgot, 12%. But from China declined only 2%. So more and more relative to others, import coming from China in relative terms. or almost all exports and imports dropped in the last 2 years. So what should be done by Pak Jokowi? I think nothing. Don't misinterpret or don't misleading with the situation. That's my point. Let's say, for example, Pak Jokowi complained there is not even one relocation from China to Indonesia. Almost relocate to Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia. That's not true. We receive more investment, but not in manufacturing, but in mining, cement factory, cement project, and many others. So, as I said before, ASEAN is very diversified. It's not homogeneous members. Of course, relocation to Vietnam to Vietnam, Thailand, or other countries for manufacturing, labor-intensive one, something like that. But don't worry about relocation. So our investment is okay. Our investment is okay. We are better than Vietnam in terms of number. In US dollar, last year we got 22 billion US dollar, but Vietnam only 80. But of course, in terms of investment to GDP, we are very, very small. But it happened from the beginning of Republic of Indonesia, 1945. We never relied on foreign investment much. Our foreign investment to GDP is only 2%. Our gross fixed capital formation, or let's say in domestic investment, is 32.5% to GDP. So we never relied on foreign direct investment. Is it good or not? Let's discuss later on. For Indonesia, ASEAN is not fit to our body. Because why? Why? Because we are the biggest one in ASEAN. If we treat level playing field, let's say for example, open sky policy in ASEAN. We open all airports, hundreds of airports in Indonesia to Singapore. But Singapore will not add the airport because Singapore has only one. So it's not fit to ASEAN. So, but we have to use ASEAN as our initial capital. As I said, very fruitful for security, stability, no conflict at all, and we treat our members very politely. We didn't criticize Myanmar by doing to Rohingya, but we did it closed door diplomacy, something like that, and maybe it will take a long time to make Myanmar, much better in terms of human right, but it is more effective than US did to Iraq, instant democracy. You see what happened. So this is our for me is something that the ASEAN has to maintain. That's why ASEAN should reach cooperation with other economic cooperation, like in Central Asia, South Asia. That's why I support Indo-Pacific concept, to put together. If you count about GDP of ASEAN, I forgot the number. You can see in my slide. If we bring all Asia, so many, some is small, but if you put it together, it will create, room for Indonesia to benefit more. I don't say that ASEAN will not benefit Indonesia. No, no. But frankly speaking, it will not happen symmetrically. So it tends to be asymmetric. So we have to move forward to create, as Ibu Dr. Fauzia said, maintain the neutrality of ASEAN, gravity of ASEAN, because almost all economic cooperation in the world would like to interact with us because the uniqueness of ASEAN, we don't want to push ourselves to be integrated like EU. We maintain our cultural, cultural characteristics and so on and so forth. What missing in ASEAN is leadership. We don't have leader in ASEAN like we had in the past. Suharto lead ASEAN, and all ASEAN countries happy to be led by Suharto. So it seems to me, I agree with Dr. Fauzia, Indonesia forget, to bring together ASEAN to the forum Indonesia exists, like G20. So let's do informal consultations with ASEAN. What our agenda in ASEAN to be brought to G20, to OECD, and so on and so forth. I think Mahathir knows that he will not take over the leadership because he knows Malaysia is quite small compared to Indonesia. We are the only member in G20. You don't say Malaysia or others. So I think, but I'm very happy to have Ibu Minister of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, who in favor by low profile, in favor of enlarging cooperation to Asia. So I think let's do it. Central Asia is culturally, we have relations, we have history, and so on and so forth. I think I support that idea. Thank you.
Dr. Fauzia?
Thank you very much. Interesting but difficult questions. I try to respond on the perhaps on Trump's impeachment. I think today just about the states on the House impeachment. With the result of impeachment, but next they need to go to the Senate and win 2/3 of the voting in Senate. And I think everybody knows that Senate is dominated by Republican. And some says that it's an attempt to degrade Trump's popularity before elections next year. But some says that Trump's popularity is high because no strong challenger come from the Democrats. What how it will impact our topics now. It really depends on how the mechanism in big investment decisions made in America, and I think American domestic infrastructure investment has been declined uh, quite uh, quite significantly recent years. That if you look at the report of the quality of infrastructures in US, almost all got red flag from their independent assessor. So but Build Act in 2018 is still new, and I think they will do it. Yeah. Now there are a lot of um, approach, yeah, done by US through USAID, yeah, to put their efforts in investment on infrastructures in the regions. And I think regardless who is the president or what happened in their political internal politics, it will do. So I think I just see it as entertainment because we are not American citizens. But so far it's I'm not worried about about the impact on these topics. And perhaps on the role of Central Asia to the ASEAN, uh, I think trade happens when there is a match between the outputs of this of the uh, two regions. So perhaps first I think our outputs are quite similar in Asia. So we don't need to trade each other because we produce the same things, the same commodities. That's why we said we export our products to Japan, to America, to Europe. Yeah. And then that one. The second is the logistic cost to Central Asia. Even though there are opportunities, but I think countries like Indonesia, especially, cannot compete with logistic costs with China, Russia, and Japan, which are your neighbors. Yeah. So I think that's influential factors why we don't have much trades between Central Asia and Southeast Asia. And on the Fiji or SEED's financing, infrastructure financing, thank you for the question. It's really a challenging one. If I may be honest, yeah. And it's not only for Fiji. I mean, it's SEED's the Pacific small islands developing states as a region. First, that I found that internally you need to strengthen your domestic capacity in terms of fiscal management, basic infrastructures. I found that some reports are not internationally standards, for example, in state budget, etc. So it's difficult to trace back how much the revenue, how you use it. Transparency, in short, is about the good governance. And second, that you need to strengthen your inter-islands cooperations and with your big neighbors, especially Australia and China. I don't say that you need to maintain the neutrality because you can choose your alliance, but please choose your alliance wisely because you can. Because now the positions with Pacific Islands is very strategic. If China presence increasing there, then it will make Japan's, Australia, and US worried, and also and vice versa. So that's why I think perhaps for example, you don't create more challenge or enemies. For example, some of the politics movement in the Pacific support, like Indonesian case of like Papua political case in Indonesia. So I think it's unnecessary. Yeah? Indonesia is your neighbors. and we can have a good cooperation. So make it more friendly with the, because the situation is really difficult. I read all the reports on the climate situations that some of the islands have been gone, in Kiribati for example, and you have the opportunity to access green financing. That's why I think it's important to strengthen your internal capacity that you can issue the, like green bonds, like just you did, yes, I think, yeah, and in Solomon Islands yes also issued the green bond, also climate fund, etc. And you have much big opportunities in tourism as well. But yeah, the climate is something that's beyond our control, right? It's very difficult, and but you can raise these issues to attract attentions of the world, because your responsibilities enjoyed by the whole world, right? But and also the damage created by anybody in the world also have a big impact on Pacific Islands. Yeah, for example, the temperature rise and also the sea level rise. Yeah, it's really difficult to put investment in infrastructure in the islands because of this also climate change. The water, the seawater, you wipe out this road and becomes deteriorated fastly, and yeah, investor may worry about the, because infrastructure is a long-term investment, so everybody would like to see it sustained. But this climate challenge is real. Yeah. So I think that's from. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Dr. Vika.
Alright, I'm going to try to answer the question about the US ASEAN relations. I think when it comes to US foreign policy, there are regions that are, I call it as a sensitively important and non-sensitively important. Like for example, the Middle East is sensitively important. What happens in the US impacts the Middle East, because the US has a long history of involvement in the Middle East. Or for example, in Afghanistan, what happens in the US affects tremendously what happens in Afghanistan, for example. But I think ASEAN falls under the category of non-sensitively important. What it means is that it is important for the US, but it is not very sensitive. What happens in the US doesn't impact us that much, you know. I agree with Dr. Fauziya that whoever sits in the White House, the relationship is still going. You know, the relation is still going. It's not very sensitive here in the US. Even if, you know, some people don't like Donald Trump, for example, but our relationship is still going on. You know, since for a long time we have the huge window, we have other investment from the state, and we also have investment back in the States. But I think Indonesia or ASEAN is a region that is non-sensitively important for the US. So what happens in the US won't impact us that much. And I want to answer the question about the blueprint or the framework for the Belt and Road Initiative. The Belt and Road Initiative is under the NDRC. NDRC is National Development and Reform Commission. It's a state institution under the Communist Party, and the BRI is a cross-ministerial work. So it's not only under one institution, it's a cross-ministries. So it's managed by the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Chinese Ministry of Commerce, and Chinese Ministry of Economic, and Chinese Ministry of Foreign Policy. They work together to to build this, to implement this Belt and Road Initiative. And as for the blueprint, the only blueprint available to the public is the document called the Vision and Action. You can Google it, it's available. It's a long document, it's a long, basic, general document. It doesn't have any map, so when we want to look at the BLM map, I think people often use the map published by the Xinhua newspaper because there is no precise map, and also the Vision and Action does not detail much on what the BLI is. And there are so many comments on so many critics on how the BLI is being managed. One of the critics is very loosely. Sometimes it changes, and we don't know who are actually the participant of the BRI. Is it only those countries on the map, or is it also countries beyond the map? Because we also see that there are a lot of reports about the BRI in Latin America. Well, clearly Latin America is not part of the map. So this is one of the critics that is very loose, and one of the arguments why it is being loose is because it can be navigated, it can be adjusted by the Xi Jinping government, so it can change, You can change. Okay, there is an opportunity here, I will take here. If there is an opportunity here, I will take here. So there is no precise map. But as of for now, the what do we call it? The real blueprint, the only blueprint available official from the government is the so-called Vision and Action of the BRI. And until now as well, it's very hard to find the precise, as I said, the precise data on Chinese investment under the BRI. There are proper and official data of investment under the AIIB. If you open the AIIB website, they have listed all the AIIB projects. Some of them are in Indonesia. It is funded by the AIIB, but as for the BRI itself, it is very difficult to find precise data, and some institutions like MERICS, they have their own database, and some they have their own database, and I went on some of them are the same, some of them are different, so it's very loose. But as for the institution, those institutions, NDRC and the three ministries of Economic, Foreign Ministry and Commerce, they play a very important role in this, and they have been officially assigned by Xi Jinping to manage and to implement this Belt and Road Initiative.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that brings us to the end of, unfortunately, we've run out of time, but if you'd like to make comments, we can approach the table afterwards. So we've come to the end of today's discussion. Please join me in thanking our three speakers, myself, and Dr. Hika. As always, there will be the discussion report and the presentation on the website in the coming days. And since this is our last event before the holidays, I'd like to wish all our Christian friends a very Merry Christmas, and to everyone else a very Happy New Year, and see you again in 2020. Thank you very much.